good?
Yep.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay, so we have a guest, Dom Calameia, a wonderful local critic. I would say Godfather, but you know, definitely
Critical critic of
critic in the area, theatre critic, blog writer, former publisher.
Never a publisher, but editorial director, editor, and co-founder, and all sorts of other titles like that.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well,
So
it's great to have you on, Don. Thanks
thank
for
you.
coming in.
Well,
Appreciate
pleasure
it.
to be here.
Yeah.
wonderful. So we thought you would be a great person to talk to for this little sample of the show because you know the importance of theatre, you know the importance of the local theatre, and you know the importance of and impact of word of mouth.
Right.
So we thought that would be the one to talk about.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Word of mouth. That's a great place to start. With basically, we were chatting a little bit about this just a moment ago about how social media has really transformed the way people hear about shows.
Right.
So, talk to us a little bit about word of mouth. How important is that still for getting people out on a Thursday, Friday night? You know,
Word of mouth is the best piece of advertising the theater can get. Usually it's somebody that you know, somebody that you trust. They're going to say, hey, this show was the greatest thing I've ever seen. You got to go.
Right.
You're more likely, I think, to trust that person than somebody like me, who you've never met before. You might think I'm, off base half the time and on target the other half, but if it's your sister telling you that or your best friend telling you that this is the best thing since sliced bread, you're more inclined to believe it. And conversely, if they say, oh my God, this is horrible, stay away, you're more likely to listen to that than if I said it was horrible.
Sure. Now, I would trust your spelling a lot more than my sister's or my best friends, but that's a really great point, and we all, I feel, in this kind of era of Yelp or our own kind of self-reviews, everybody's got an opinion these days and are thrilled to have a platform to express it. And so I think you're right that just listening to the people and their opinions are critical. But when it comes to reviewing shows, I mean, you've been doing it for years and years and have been such a staunch supporter of different theaters in the area with your writing. So is there still space for that right now of writing critical reviews for shows maybe that might bring somebody from the other side of the state, to check something out?
Well, there's still a place for reviews, but one of the problems that we're having right now, and this is something that the American Theater Critics Association, of which I'm a member, has been talking about for a while, is, you've got, I guess, what you can call the professional critics versus I'll just use the word amateur, but, the bloggers who really have no practical experience from a media standpoint.
Sure.
Okay.
As you said, everybody's got an opinion, but whether it's an informed opinion is another story. And that's part of the problem that we're dealing with is who do you trust? That's why I think word of mouth still is, the best route to go and where you get the most accurate information, honestly. Because, again, you trust your friend, you trust your relative. You're not necessarily going to trust every critic that you see out there writing a blog.
Sure. That's a great point. And in a way, I mean, it kind of is bringing us back to older times when people would, just basically review a show or go see something and say, hey, you got to check it out. It's playing on the market. Catch them before they move on to the next town kind of thing. So.
And, I'd like to think as a critic that, my words are so highly held in esteem that the minute I write something, phones ring in a theater box office and tickets fly out the window.
Totally.
That's just not the case here anymore.
But what do you think the benefit of critical review is that is unique in having a professional critic review? What are the benefits there that are not available from word of mouth that the critic still brings to the table?
Right. What professional critics bring to the table is hopefully an informed opinion. That they can put a show into perspective for you. It's just not reciting the basic plot line.
Sure.
Right. Sure.
And unfortunately, too many reviews are like that. But a professional critic should hopefully be able to frame for the reader exactly the history of the show, how it fits into the times, What was the author intending to convey? How well does the theater company interpret what the author was trying to say? And then you get into, you know, whether this actor was good enough or that actor was horrible, or, you know, this was, again, the best thing since sliced bread.
Right.
But, you know, it's informed opinions that matter, and there's still a need and a necessity for that.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I like the fact that a critic is also in a position where they're able to be negative. I find that people will often talk about a show that they enjoy, but maybe they won't talk about a show they didn't enjoy so
Right.
much.
Right.
And even if you didn't enjoy a show, sometimes there are things that might be worth mentioning. That a professional critic, being where they are, they have that position where they can say, well, I didn't think it worked exactly, but...
Right, exactly. And that's what a critic should do. I mean, and that's what you depend on a critic doing,
Sure.
is being able to talk about those kinds of things. And unfortunately, you know, in a market like Detroit, where, you know, the market's kind of fragile.
Sure.
You know, you've got a number of companies that, you know, live on a shoestring, and so the critics don't want to torpedo the port
Right.
theater.
Absolutely.
Right.
So you find ways to say things nicely, or you purposely don't talk about that actor who just so totally screwed up their lines
Right.
that it made, you know, an awful experience that night,
Right.
or you know, any other number of things. One way to tell whether a critic has liked a show or not is if he avoids all of that, or she avoids all of that. If they don't talk about, you know, how the quality of the acting was, the quality of the directing, you know, all the other stuff that goes into a show, chances are they probably didn't like it, but they don't want to kill the theater by saying it.
Well, there you go. Don's
Really
not trying to
close.
kill any theaters. I'm so proud.
I've tried
That's
not
good.
to. I don't think I have.
He has the best intentions of not killing a theatre.
Right.
So
That's
that's good.
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe injured a little bit, but
Yeah,
you know.
you know.
It builds character.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Have you seen any, you know, just from output from different theaters, some new maybe tactics with responding to, obviously, you know, with having fewer and fewer print materials available to people, there are just fewer critical reviews coming out. So
Right.
what have you seen that's maybe interested or piqued your fancy and gone, that's really smart as a response? Maybe on the theater side from different people.
Video.
Video,
Social
yeah.
media is the place today to do all of your PR for the most part. And the theater companies, I think, that are aggressive in pursuing opportunities in video, producing commercials, producing interviews with people in the show, you know, provided they're not, you know, an hour and a half long.
Right,
You know,
sure.
short and sweet tidbits to entice somebody to come to the theater, I think, is really the best way to go these
Yeah.
days, and probably the most successful. I've seen a lot of, you know, 1-minute videos that you
Sure.
sit and you laugh and you go, you know what, I want to look into that.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, we're a visual group. People are visual.
Totally.
And you know, we remember things that we see, I think, more than things that we read or even things that we just hear.
Sure.
Absolutely. So we basically want like the, you know, audio-visual canapé.
Yes.
Basically.
We
Very
want
much so.
trailers. We
Right,
want
exactly.
Trailers.
We love a good trailer,
Well,
yes.
right?
I mean, and movies have spoiled us that way.
Right. Yeah.
So, you know, why not do the same thing for theater?
Yeah, I think we've definitely been trained to enjoy things that way. Too. You know, it's a thing, and it's an important thing to include. And hopefully, you know, Curtain Call will be part of that environment,
Right,
because
right.
that's what we're aiming for here.
Yep, exactly.
Absolutely.
You know, there's just got to be new avenues, new approaches, new ways of doing things. I mean, let's face it, you put social media in front of a 12-year-old and you put technology in front of a 12-year-old,
Yeah.
and they can create anything you want.
Yep.
So theaters that are hesitant, especially, you know, theaters that have been around 20, 30, 40 years, if they're afraid, you know, we don't know how to do this, get a 12-year-old.
All right.
They'll do it for you.
They'll be thrilled and do it for
Exactly.
free. It'll
Yeah.
be great.
As long as we pay attention to labor laws,
Yes,
everything
of
is
course.
good.
Of course. Kind of on that note, now I'm just curious, hearing you chat about that. There's a lot of movie theaters that have started offering Shakespearean shows, the full thing.
Mhm.
You can see it live. You can go to your own local movie theater and see, Judi Dench do something in
Oh yeah, like the
England.
National Theatre and the RSC.
Right.
Absolutely.
Those are good.
Yeah.
So those lines are kind of getting blurred, and that's really exciting. So even beyond just the 20-second trailer to get you in the theater,
Mhm.
even more movie theaters are starting to resort to showing live theater,
Right.
which is kind of cool.
Well, on the one hand, it is cool because
Mhm.
it's exposing a number of people to live theater that they might never have otherwise experienced.
Sure.
But on the other hand, it's not live theater.
Right.
Right.
Sitting in that
Absolutely.
second row and watching the spit come out of an actor's mouth,
Right.
or just watching all the little things that you don't see because the camera is not catching it, makes the experience of live theater much greater than just watching a video. It pulls you into such a
Yes.
degree that you
Absolutely.
become part of the show. You're now just. You're sitting on the edge watching it take place in front of you instead of on a big screen.
Totally.
Right.
Yeah.
So in some ways, even though there is such a thing as immersive theatre in general is no matter what
Naturally.
level, it's naturally like you
Immersive,
say, it's
yeah.
naturally immersive.
Right.
Yeah.
And think about how many great shows there are where maybe, one camera angle or even two or three is not going to give you the full experience.
No. In fact, people who are used to reading my reviews will notice that I often point out things that would be out of camera range.
Sure.
Because you're not seeing a person's reaction to something that's happening. And a
Yeah.
lot of times the story is really being told by those, off-camera people who are
Right.
reacting to what's going on. And that helps raise a level, or it could also, pull down the level of a show depending on whether the actor is, up to,
Yeah,
responding
okay.
appropriately.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Interesting.
Just a little flick of an eye
Yeah.
can
yeah.
tell you something, whereas
Yeah.
you're going to miss that on a movie screen because the guy's, out of frame.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Plus,
Yeah.
the other thing that with theatre is you're never going to see precisely the same thing.
Yes.
If I go
Yeah.
see the performance on Thursday, and Luna goes on Saturday,
Right.
it's going to be the same show, but it's also not going to be the same
Right, it's
show.
gonna be
So
different.
It's going to be
Somehow,
different
some
every
way.
single time.
Yeah. See, and that's always one of the danger of reviews.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Right.
the performance I'm reviewing is not going to be the performance that anybody else is going to see.
Absolutely.
Sure.
And let's face it, sometimes after a review, theaters make a few little adjustments if we point out a couple things that they weren't looking at before.
Sure.
And just the fact that everybody's different, and every day we come in with a different mood or
Right.
whatnot.
Yes.
So the
Yeah.
experience is always going to be different no matter what.
Yeah. Speaking on that note, have you ever seen or reviewed a show where you saw, say, the worst, just the most off night, off night, and then saw it maybe a couple weeks later and it was a completely different show?
Yes. I've actually said on a couple of occasions that I would love sometime to review an opening night performance and a closing night performance.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Because
Yeah.
they're often two totally different shows.
Completely.
Now, part of it is because it's the last performance, so the actors kind of, let loose a
They
little
get
bit.
loosey-goosey, yeah.
But, you see how the actors have grown in their roles.
Absolutely.
Because let's face it, on opening night, you still really aren't
Yep.
there yet.
Yep,
Right.
half your lines and maybe better,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah. You're
So-
off book, but you're still kind of like working out the controls.
Yeah,
From where
yeah.
you are. Yeah.
Yep.
And
You
the
don't always,
jitters are there.
right.
Yeah.
And you don't always understand the character quite as much as you do after like 10 real performances, and
Sure.
people react to you and you go, oh, okay.
That's right, that was
Okay,
funny.
We'll do
I
that.
forgot.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Wonderful. Oh,
Okay.
well, do you have anything coming up that you're excited to go see in any of the local shows coming out right now?
Well, there's not a particular show,
Mm-hmm.
but so many companies are doing such good work right now
Yeah.
that it's always a treat.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always surprised when I go see a show at any theater because, everybody's working so hard
Yeah.
right now. We have a lot of theater,
Mm-hmm.
so the competition is tough.
Sure.
There's only so many dollars to go around.
Right.
And I really think, the vast majority of theaters are really stepping up and providing, a quality product for the entertainment dollars.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay, Don, this is wonderful to talk to you. I'm sure that we'll have you back very soon to talk about other topics and
Cool.
other shows and specific shows.
I hope so.
So that would be wonderful.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's been a
Thanks,
pleasure.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Yep.
Thanks.
And we'll be seeing you guys very shortly for our next segment with. Yep, that thing.
That'll do. Yeah.
There you go.
There we go.
That was great.
Okay.
Sorry, you asked. You started mentioning the thing about.